Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Hierarchy Podcast, episode number 116, with Chelsea Young from North Central University. So it's really great to talk with her about something that I have a bit more familiarity with. It's always good having the learning opportunities for things that I'm not as exposed to, but just kind of talking shop around virtual student support, something that she is intimately aware with. She is an online student at North Central. It's an online institution, so they're really immersed in this work. I think there's some really great examples as, what I think this accelerated pivot to remote virtual student support as this really becomes kind of the new norm. I think it's some great things to think about, some great actions that you can take. Just really appreciate Chelsea sharing all that she did. And a brief mention here, as always, two great ways to support the show. We've got our merch store and our new Patreon, so definitely go check those out in the description for this episode. But without further ado, this is episode number 116 with Chelsea Young. Right. Well, I am super excited to be sitting down to talk about a favorite topic of mine, virtual online student support, things that are obviously accelerating quite a bit in this current era that we're in. So it's something that I have a lot of experience and interest in, and I'm just so glad we get to give a little bit more time and space to it here on the podcast. But we will start off as we always do. Chelsea, if you want to introduce yourself and give a brief overview of your professional journey and how you got to be where you are today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Dustin. I really appreciate being here. Like I said, my name is Chelsea Young. I am the Vice President of Academic Engagement at North Central University. And how I got here, it's actually kind of an interesting story for my personal professional journey. Sometimes I can't really believe that I work in higher ed in general, because when I go back to where I began, I grew up in a really small town, and when I was in high school, the thought of going to college just did not seem like the right path for me. It didn't seem like that was, it wasn't a thing that was really encouraged like within my family, although I do have family members who have gone to college. I'm a first generation college student, and my parents did not go to college, and this was not, higher education was just not something that we really focused on. So when I graduated high school, I took a different path, and I went to school to become an esthetician, and I worked for some great doctors doing skincare, and I loved it. And I felt that was my path, and I did that for several years. And then series of unfortunate events happened that don't need to go into, but I found myself needing a different job. And I had a friend that worked for a university, and she was like, you should come be an enrollment advisor here. Like you love to help people and love to talk to people. And so I was like, well, that's really outside of my realm, but I do love to help people, and I love to talk with people. And, I love to help people with their skincare. So maybe I can help them with their education. But it was so weird for me because that was not my area at all. So, but I did it, and I started working for a university, and that kind of opened the door for me to realize in my mid-20s that maybe I could pursue my own education, and I could maybe get a bachelor's degree, which seemed so outside of the realm of possibility for me, but I started to do it. And then with my career, I ended up working at in total of two universities and going to school at those universities before I found North Central University. I was still working on my bachelor's degree, and I was going online. So I had never attended an on-campus ground program ever in my life. To this day, I have not. So I found a North Central University, not just for a career change, but more for the student experience. I, saw what they offered and how they offered it, and I was like, I want to go to school there. And so I looked, I'm like, oh, they have enrollment jobs there. And I was able to somehow, as a miracle, get hired doing enrollment advising at NCU. And that was 10 years ago this year. So I went there, started going to school there. I have gone to school as a student at NCU for, oh my gosh, almost my entire tenure that I've been there. I'm currently now in my doctorate program at NCU. And over these last 10 years, I've had so many opportunities to work in different areas of the university and really learn how to not only take my own student experience and turn it into positive things in my working life, but I've just had a lot of different opportunities to grow within the organization. And that has brought me to where I am today, where I am now Vice President of Academic Engagement, and I lead several of our academic student support teams that offer the virtual student supports to our students. So I get to offer them, but I also get to take advantage of them as a student myself.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, it's just so much from that. I mean, I'd give you a lot of respect, I guess, just kind of going all in with one institution, like just that, you found that kind of educational home, that professional home, place where, it seems as though they also just appreciate you, which is always like a good thing that, unfortunately sometimes is hard to come by. But I mean, we definitely share some kind of common traits of our origin stories as well. Of just, I think like, it's funny to think back of like where I am now and where I was like graduating from high school, and just like, what I thought of myself and what I'd become, that sort of thing. And just, certainly where you are now, and just, really incredible. And I think, it's just certainly an interesting perspective that you bring. Like you said, that you're sort of in it right now and also doing it in terms of so the topic at hand that we wanted to talk about today of virtual student support and everything, certainly a hot topic, very relevant to our time right now. And I guess just from your point of view, and again, you have a pretty comprehensive one, if you want to just give a snapshot for folks, obviously, they may have more or less understanding of it, just at large, what sort of like student support things are you doing virtually? And just obviously over the past year, how has that changed, with like, going to remote learning and all of that. So like kind of giving that context of how it was before and how it is now, and just, I guess, generally explaining what it is for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. So, I know COVID has caused so many major disruptions in higher ed. We've seen all of the institutions have to scramble that have never gone online, or, maybe had very minimal online offerings. They've had to scramble to pivot and, rethink what they do and how they do it. And that's been a really, really big change for all those institutions, not just for the faculty and staff and administration, but for the students as well. One thing for us at NCU is we are a 100% online university. We always have been. So we've had, we were founded in 1996. So we've had, 25 years of experience of figuring out how to do this. So it's in our DNA, like we were built to be online. So when COVID hit, we didn't have to shift or change what we were doing. And that was good for not only us internally, but it was good for our students because they're built for it too, because we have trained them to learn how to be online and, learn online. And that from the day that they walk in our virtual doors, this is what it is, so we teach them from day one. So we didn't have to do any major pivots in regards to the way we offer our services and what we do. What we did have to do, though, is learn how to provide additional supports to them, more emotional supports. There's so much that, just the isolation of being quarantined and, then you're going to school online, but you're just stuck in your house and you don't have your normal life. And so I think that was a really big challenge for us to learn how to, really support, meet the emotional needs of our students and ourselves, internal faculty and staff. I mean, we had the same challenges. So, we were definitely able to rely on our knowledge of how to build community online and how to break down the isolation barriers, because everyone, really got stuck in that isolating space of, having to stay home and, not, live your normal life. So that was probably the biggest thing for us, is just trying to leverage what we know we do well with, building community and creating connections in an online space, and then applying it even more so during this COVID pandemic that's still going on today.
Well, yes, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because institutions like yours, in just any facet of institutions that are that had already been working digitally and supporting online students and those sort of things. Obviously, we're all positioned to not have it be as disruptive. But like you said, all of your faculty, staff, and students were sort of doing without in so many other regards in their life. That, they might have experienced job disruptions or just feeling especially isolated, even though they can continue studying and doing what you can to help sort of build that community and be supportive. But I guess just to clarify, so even though like the whole institution, is an online university and everything, like, do faculty and staff like work out of like a headquarters or hub? Like, and I guess for your sake too, like, do you work like full time remotely? Like, was that like a change that you had to go through at all?
Yeah, actually. So it's interesting the way our university is set up. The majority of our university is remote. I mean, our faculty and staff live all over the country. We have a presence in every, 50 states. We also have faculty and staff that live overseas, so we really are global. But we did have, headquarters space and service center office space where we worked, and some folks worked in person, and I was one of those where I
Mm.
had an office in our office space, but half of the people I worked with were remote. The teams that report up to me, they're all remote, so I was already used to working with them in a remote capacity. But there are several of my colleagues that I would see on a daily basis in person that I could no longer see anymore. So we have shifted to completely remote. So all of the folks that did work in the headquarter and building spaces have transitioned to fully remote and online. And so for that population of people, which was pretty small, it was a big transition. But the good news is we're so used to working with folks that had the work from home down that it was easy for them to support all of us who were going through that transition, and gave us tips and tricks on how to really be effective working from home full time.
Yeah, that's good to hear because I've actually talked with people who like work to do like digital community engagement, but like they all work together in an office. So it was like the irony of like, oh, well, we all have to figure this out. The thing that we help other people do, but like, it's sort of like a sobering thing where it's like, wow, we don't actually like maybe like, embody the best practices that we might advise others to do. So they kind of had to just like, look themselves in the mirror and kind of just, make those adaptations. But, well, I guess, yeah. So we kind of have laid that whole kind of broader context and, how your all team, everybody works together. But I guess talk a little bit more about your approach at North Central in terms of like, you're doing this virtual student support, how you go about doing that. Cause I mean, we're kind of starting from the 30,000 feet up because that, just saying virtual student support could mean a lot of different things. So if you want to kind of start breaking it down, zooming in a little bit, then we'll kind of go from there.
Yes, absolutely. So, high level, obviously our students, we have to cater to our specific audience of students, and every university is different. Everyone has, a different student population that they serve. So for us, all of our student population, they are primarily in graduate programs. They are in their master's and their doctoral degree programs. Like that is our like primary student population. And because it's graduate school focused, these folks, they're adults. This is their coming back to school. Many of them haven't been, either they've never gone to school online or they haven't been to school in many, many years. This is, a dream that they have wanted to achieve their PhD their whole life. And now they're, far in their kids are grown and they're finally going to pursue that dream. And they're all, working adults. That is our primary student population, and they're all over the world. So we had to really create a virtual student support model that would fit our students' needs. And that, primarily is they need support and access 24/7, and we have to do it in a way that makes them feel that they have what they need to learn, not just through the resources and the curriculum that they get in the classroom. So we came up with a holistic and integrated approach to providing our support services so that it really does span the entire life cycle of the student. And we did that based on three principles. So foundation, preparation, and connection at a distance. So within that model, and I'll give you a few examples too to help you really clarify what all of that means, was I have 4 teams that work for me and report up to me that follow this model. And that's our library, our Academic Success Center, and that Academic Success Center provides coaching and tutoring for writing and statistics and all kinds of things like that. And then our Center for Teaching and Learning that provides a lot of training and like student life support. And then last is our Commons. And our Commons is actually a virtual like social network space. So it's something that we built in house, but it's very similar to your social platforms like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, where we give our students a place to connect with each other. So those are the teams that I work with that provide these student services, and we do it in a shared technology platform so that we can utilize tools to really engage with our students, to make it easy for them to move from one team to another, because they all provide resources and they all provide services. And we know that with our students, we really have to give them primarily like asynchronous opportunities to be successful and to get what they need. So with our foundation, we have 24/7 resource centers, library databases, learning aids, video tutorials. We record everything we do. So webinars, workshops, we give all of them that access asynchronously. And then we also do synchronous offerings too, so that when they really need to talk to someone, our librarians or our academic coaches or our trainers, they're available through chat, email, text, phone, and then they offer like live sessions as well. So that's really where we put our foundation into play. Then from there, we focus on preparing them. So our preparation principle is preparing them with skills that they need to be successful. So it's a lot of our co-curricular efforts. It's helping them develop their scholarly writing, helping them develop their information literacy and learn how to really use our library databases to become a skilled researcher, because they need that as they're going through their degree programs. So that piece, we really provide the services that we can to help them develop their skills. And then the last principle is that connection piece, where we know that learning online, especially right now during the pandemic, can be so isolating. And that's in general, if you read the literature and you research online degree programs, people say it can be really isolating because you're not seeing people next to you in a classroom and you're not seeing them on campus. So that's why we really go above and beyond to create that social space where our students can come and they can engage in discussions with each other in our Commons platform, and they can ask questions and share resources and they can network. And then we also create opportunities for them to partake in group sessions. So within our Academic Success Center, if they can go to like a group coaching session where they're meeting other students and they're working with an academic coach on a topic, and they're able to learn from their fellow students that they may have never met before, but they're in a group workshop with them, so they're getting that connection and that interaction. So that is a kind of, high level, but with some details, how we really do our approach here.
Yeah, I mean, it feels super comprehensive. Like it's all the things that I feel like folks should be thinking about. So it sounds like it's just a really great model. I'm glad we're talking a little bit more about today. So, because I think it is like, even the idea of like just doing even a little bit of all of those things. Because I think it could be that, like you said, like when you look at kind of the research or just any sort of like surveying that's done of online students, like the students themselves are seeking like just almost anything, like they just want to see kind of, I think, a level of effort or just the opportunity, the potential to engage with the institution, engage with their fellow students and have that connection be formed, even though they're, many miles away from wherever that institution may be based. Like, that affinity can be really still like nurtured so that they feel, like they're just a part of that university community, and they'll be just like really, sort of a booster as like an alumni and that sort of thing. But, it is just like putting any effort in that, because I think it still is some residue where it's like, oh, a student chooses to be online because they don't want, any sort of community or any frills or that sort of thing. But it's like, yeah, increasingly like it's a necessity. It's like, well, if I want to get my master's to like get my career, to where I want to be, like, I kind of need to do it online. So it's not a matter of like, oh, I'm doing this because I kind of just want to like, check the boxes and don't want to like, engage or anything like that. So yeah, really refreshing to hear, just how much you and your team is doing and all these different things. But I guess, if you want to highlight any particular aspects of the work that is being done in all those different departments and everything, just like the positive outcomes, like the feedback that you have garnered through all these different things, just to really kind of make it tangible of like, the impact, the outcomes that are coming from all this.
Yes, absolutely. So, we are always engaging in a regular assessment of our resources and our services. So that's a really big portion of this is, you can, say, oh, we're going to offer all of these services and we're going to create a bunch of, learning aids and a bunch of videos and throw them out there to our students and hope it works. But that alone doesn't work. You really have to, look at what you're offering and have set metrics and really pull data and engage in assessment and then pivot and make changes, and if you find gaps or challenges, try to make improvements. So based off of the data and the information that you're getting back, we work really hard to not just we work with our institutional research team. They do studies, or they'll look at the services that our students have taken advantage of, and then we look at how they're performing within their degree programs, and our students that attend writing sessions with our academic coaches, are they scoring better in their writing courses, or are they doing better within their degree program. So those are things that we look at, but then we really try to create an open door kind of not policy, but just we always want to make our students feel like they can speak to us and give us feedback and be heard. And we do that through formal surveys and things like that. But we also just we chalked them a lot, and we create these spaces where we can ask them directly, like, is this working for you? Are you getting what you need out of these coaching sessions? Or are your librarians helping you learn what you need to learn, and as far as conducting your research, are you getting what you need? So we have gotten a lot of really great feedback that way, because we're always just listening to our students and trying to give them the opportunity to engage with us as an institution, through faculty, through staff, through our Commons platform, and just always being available to hear from them and then see what we can do to either improve their experience, make changes in the services and the resources that we provide, and just really, engage with them and help them see that this is a two-way street, and it's not us just, throwing out the information that we think they need and hope that they get it and understand it. We want to hear from them to ensure that they are getting what they need and they are understanding it. So, we've had a lot of really good outcomes, and we've made a lot of changes in the way we do things, just based off of engaging with our students and, hearing what they need. So one piece of that too that we were able to really make improvements on is with creating the opportunities for more collaboration between like my teams. So for example, our students will say, like, I'm getting a really great experience attending these coaching sessions, but I really wish that there was a librarian in here too, because I have a library question that goes along with what this coach is helping me with. So, hearing those, that feedback from our students, we've been able to create more collaboration across the teams that are providing the services and do a lot of combined sessions and combined opportunities to make sure that we are, again, hitting all of the needs of our students. But it really does come back to assessing what you're doing and, taking the data and making good improvements from it.
Right. And I feel like even starting there, because you might be like, well, what should we do first? Like, what do our students want or need? And you could kind of just do that, like, kind of temperature check of like, doing a survey to assess that, or just trying to look at the data that you do have and say like, wow, most of the students who did not retain struggled academically, like they're on probation or they got dismissed or something. So it's like, well, let's try to do something about that. Let's like, try to bulk up tutoring availability or other like just academic resources to kind of embed in the student's experience or something. But yeah, and then yeah, just keep checking in, because it could be like, well, did you like how we did that? Like, did you like how the tutoring was set up? But is it easy to book an appointment with somebody and that sort of thing? So yeah, super important. And both having kind of both sides of that coin of like kind of formalized surveys and assessments and those sort of things, but also opening yourselves up to getting into things more anecdotally, like hearing it kind of straight from the students themselves. So all great stuff. And I feel like I have a couple of things that I kind of want to ask in particular, but I'll just move us on to our next question in terms of like advice that you would give to others who might have some work to do in this area if they're needing to really continue to like augment the work that they're doing so that it's available digitally and build community in digital spaces and things like that. So I have questions that I'm curious about, like from your experience of like maybe getting some of these things spun up, but I'll leave it there as to get just kind of the broad question to begin of advice that you would give to other higher ed professionals who, are currently kind of working their way through this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that, and happy to answer any of your questions. So
yes.
feel free, throw them out there.
Yeah.
But advice, I always come back to this. It's you have to listen to your constituents. So you need to listen to your students and listen to your faculty. So what are faculty saying? What do students need that faculty are saying? Because they get a completely different exposure. But if you know that you need to provide better supports to your students, you got to know who your students are and listen to what they need. Because I could say, I can sit here and say, here's the things that work for us, but that might not work for every other university because your populations might be different. So, I know that if I'm, providing specific services to support students in a dissertation sequence, and I'm trying to help them get through writing their dissertation and conducting the research and their study for their dissertation, that's completely different than what you would want to, the type of supports that you would give to maybe an undergraduate student that was attending on campus in person and now suddenly is having to complete their sophomore year of college online. So it's coming back to who are your students and what are you offering and what are you trying to achieve. So that's like the number one piece of advice, is to start there. And then really decide what can you build that will last long term. I think that COVID has really, again, I said this earlier, it's disrupted our entire space. Even for those of us that are already online, it's been a huge disruption. So anyone that's can invest in offering supports virtually, even if you have on-campus programs, think about what you can build that will be long-term and that would be sustainable long-term, that could maybe support your students that are in online programs, but also in ground campus programs. So really just listening to your students and, trying to make those decisions and, doing a lot of research around it to support exactly what they need, I think is the best place to start.
That's great advice. And I think, so I wanted to kind of frame this in like an advice piece of like what my question was, because I think a big piece of pretty objectively of what students need, especially, online students. And like you said, too, I mean, it's good to frame this as like any work that's done here doesn't solely benefit online students more often than not. It's going to help commuter students, any adult learners, students who, are working and just need some additional flexibility and availability of resources. So it's kind of on that point, because you mentioned sort of having, kind of 24/7 availability and just sort of like focusing on that a bit, because I think that that's huge. Because like if only you're only open 9 to 5 in your local time, and people can't actively have conversations to get the support that they need, that doesn't help them to feel as part of the community or get things resolved in a timely manner. So what are just like methods or platforms, or just what are the ways that you work to make sure that you are available across time zones and all those kind of things for all your students?
Yeah, so technology is our friend. So, for sure, trying to figure out which piece, I mean, there's so many tools and things out there, so trying to figure out which, piece of technology that you will use to make this work for you. And I don't think that it has to be a million of the latest, crazy technology tools that are the hot on the market. You just have to figure out like what's something that you can all use and that will work for you, for your institution, and also for your students and the student experience. And for us, we use use, one shared platform that houses our resource centers. It gives access to our library databases. It's connected to our learning management system. And then it has, the tools embedded in it to be able to take chats and be able to respond quickly to emails in a queue, and be able to take phone calls. And also, which is huge for us, is be able to have a very streamlined student experience from one center to the other. So if a student gets on and sends a chat to our library team, but it's actually, something that's housed in our Center for Teaching and Learning, and they need to talk to, one of our trainers, then we can seamlessly transfer the student from one center to another because it's all in the same platform. So that has been really huge for us, is, just being able to invest in that integrated space where everything is in one spot for our students. And then as far as time zones go and making people available, luckily we are a remote organization, and so like my team members are all over the country, and they all have different shifts and schedules that they work. And there's times that we're not available in person 24/7, but that's why we have all of our resource centers at our learning aids that are available to them if we're not online. But we do have really extensive coverage. We have night coverage, we have weekends, so we've really just we built our teams out with a lot of flexibility and a lot of coverage so that we can be available to our students during the times when they really do need us.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of, I was assuming that I was, what I was going to hear is just like, just literally, breaking free of the paradigm, especially as a remote organization, is easier. Got great coaches and different folks who are just in different time zones. So like, it's not as onerous for them to be, like, oh, well, I'm just working like 9 to 5 in my local time, but, that gives some different availability for students at different time zones and that sort of thing. But, yeah, so like that's just one piece, is sort of just allowing for nights, weekends, people working remotely at different time zones. It sort of helps to solve for that problem. And then, like you said, it's kind of that balance of like not kind of, always just looking for the new shiny, new like tech tool or something, like just finding something that works. And, it sounds like for you all, like you have something that seems pretty seamless for students. Like it's pretty, just easy to manage for them and everything, and just works for what you all need and everything. So I'm just trying to keep it, fairly lean there, I presume. But yeah, I mean, and sort of in that same mindset, I guess, of just like resources and everything. So, we can keep it kind of broad to start, I guess, of just, because this is a very broad topic and where anybody might be interested in to begin with. But so yeah, like what would you recommend, I guess, where to look to even like get started to just learn more about virtual student support?
Well, we are a graduate institution, so we're very focused on research, and there's so much great literature out there. So, I would really recommend that, folks take some time to really, do some literature research to find, what is out there that would be helpful for them. I mean, there's a lot of papers and things that we have published, so our faculty and our staff are very engaged in, not only do we research to figure out what literature is out there that will support us, but we also, do our own studies, and then we publish literature so that we can contribute back to the, broader higher ed community of here's what's working for us, and we like to share those things. So, I definitely just encourage, doing research on the literature that's out there, because depending on what you are looking to do, there's a lot of good ideas. So whether it's you want to create an online student orientation course, and there's a ton of literature out there that will support that, or you want to research what are good best practices for librarians in an online space, tons of great literature out there on that. And same thing for learning centers. So our academic success center with our coaches and the things that they coach to, there's an entire population of learning centers that are out there, and they have a lot of literature to support it. So that would be my first recommendation. There's no one particular magic book or article that will tell you everything you need to know, but just starting to find the literature for whatever your end goal is. And then also professional organizations. So, all of my teams are very engaged with professional organizations that are related to their field. So our librarians all have have memberships to the American Library Association. They go to the conferences yearly, they present, they publish with them. They're very engaged there. Same thing with our Learning Center, the Academic Success Center. They participate with the National College Learning Center Association. So those professional organizations that are related to whatever it is that you're doing are really helpful and a great place to start with just learning about the opportunities and learning about the paths that you can take.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's a professional organization for everything, which is just like awesome. So it's like if you want to nerd out about libraries, like you've got a whole community of people there that will nerd out with you. So that's great. And I think that's definitely a good way to start. Because if we could, be like, oh, there's this great book about tutoring or something, and it's just like, okay, well, that's like one piece of it, but a lot of other stuff to explore. And I think, just kind of starting with that initial kind of foray into any professional organization, definitely good advice. So we will wrap up the episode, though, as we always do, with some kind of final thoughts, maybe like a call to action, or just however you'd like to end the episode. Any final thoughts that you have on this topic?
Yes, well, I definitely thank you for having me to, speak about this. And it's something that I'm very passionate about because, as I said, when I was, beginning my journey, sharing what my journey was, it's a lot of what I do right now is from my own personal experience too. I am a student. So, as I am in my current program right now, I'm uncovering things that that I struggle with as a student. So I know if I'm struggling with it, then other people probably are too. And so that has been, a really big motivating factor for me too, to be even more passionate about what I do. So, I think that in general, anyone in any university that is looking to either improve your virtual student supports if you have some, or if you are looking to just get into this because you never offered your student services online, maybe you never had online library access and you're used to supporting your students, in person, walking in the door, sitting down with tutors, sitting down with coaches or librarians, or whatever it is that you have to offer. I think that there's so much that can be done as long as you're willing to listen to your students and your constituents and be open to the things that you're hearing and be open to adapting to change. I think that's such a big part of this is we have to change what we're doing to continually innovate and evolve and move forward. And so I would just encourage anyone to, know what your intention is and, be open to adapting and changing and meeting those needs and be passionate about it.
Yes. Great way to end the episode and kind of bringing it full circle. And such great stuff that you shared. And I think some great, great things to think about for, this topic of virtual student support. Very important one that will continue to be important because certainly digital education is here to stay and, is only really accelerated in its prevalence. And, we're only just getting better at doing it and supporting the students who are in these online programs. So just thank you so much for your time and all that you shared. Chelsea will have ways to connect with you and everything that you mentioned in the show notes as usual. But just thank you again. I mean, this is stuff that I love talking about. So I'm glad too that we had some space and time to chat here.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Higher Ed Geek podcast.